What's up, guys? There are some times in life where a sports team has to make a tough decision and trade away a franchise player near the end of their career. Either the club has to rebuild / payroll, or they just want to give the guy a chance to win elsewhere. Think of the Boston Bruins trading Ray Bourque, or the San Francisco 49ers trading Joe Montana so they can continue the Steve Young era. Those trades made sense at the time, and they still do today when you look back on them. But my God, nothing's more pathetic than when a team loses its patience and gives up on its young franchise player too early. The sad part is how it seems to happen all too often. Just because a guy doesn't break out, do you really have to lose all faith in him so soon? Ask these 10 teams how that worked out. I'm Jason Biondo, and today we present 10 teams who gave away their young stars way too early. Don't forget to leave your video ideas down below. We'll be looking, and if we choose your idea, we'll give you a shout out in the video. Make sure to subscribe to TPS and put on your notifications because we post videos every single day. Every day's a new video, subscribe. And a big shout out to JK for suggesting this video. I can't tell if your name is pronounced Jake or JK like joke, but my name's Jay too, so what's up? Number 10, Los Angeles Rams, Jerome Bettis. The Rams hit a home run when they took powerful running back Jerome the Bus Bettis with the 10th pick in 1993. Bettis performed well in his 3 seasons with the Rams. He had a pair of 1,000-yard seasons and powered the Los Angeles offense. But the Rams were high on troubled but talented Nebraska running back Lawrence Phillips, who got into trouble for allegedly assaulting a 21-year-old female student while in college. You could tell it would be a disaster from the get-go. Nonetheless, the Rams took Phillips with the number 6 pick in 1996, but they traded Bettis to the Pittsburgh Steelers for draft picks. So here's what happened. Bettis was a 4-time Pro Bowl running back in Pittsburgh. He had turned them into a consistent playoff team. Oh, in his final season, Bettis led Pittsburgh to a Super Bowl 40 championship. Phillips, on the other hand, wasn't able to escape his off-the-field issues. He became a major problem for the Rams coaches, and the team cut ties with him during the 1997 season. At least the Rams got Marshall Faulk in a trade with the Indianapolis Colts a few years later. That's pretty good. Number 9, Oklahoma City Thunder, James Harden. Led by the big three of Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden, the OKC Thunder reached the NBA Finals in 2012. They were no match for LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade, and the Thunder bowed out in 5 games. But there was little reason to bear shame. With an elite big three, the Thunder were going to win a championship before long. However, before the 2012-13 season began, Harden rejected a 4-year extension that was reportedly worth $54 million. Instead of bumping up the offer, the Thunder just gave up and sent him to the Houston Rockets in a massive blockbuster. OKC acquired Jeremy Lamb, Kevin Martin, 2 firsts, and a 2nd rounder. The Rockets got Harden, Lazar Hayward, Cole Aldrich, and DeQuan Cook. How was the deal stacked up all these years later? Well, Harden has become a perennial All-Star and won the 2018 NBA MVP award, turning the Rockets into an annual championship contender. The Thunder haven't been back to the finals ever since Harden left. And in 2016, Durant ditched the Thunder for the Golden State Warriors. So OKC probably regrets trading Harden when he was only 23 years of age. Number 8, Portland Trail Blazers, Moses Malone. The ABA and NBA merged together in 1976, and the decision was made to hold a dispersal draft that year. That meant NBA teams would be able to pick players from a pair of ABA clubs that weren't included in the merger. The Portland Trail Blazers held 2 of the top 5 picks in the 76 dispersal draft. They selected big man Maurice Lucas with the number 2 pick. Then with the number 5 selection, Portland took another big man in Moses Malone. But the Trail Blazers decided to only keep one of them, and they chose Lucas over Malone, believing the former was going to be a more impactful player. Portland traded Malone to the Buffalo Braves in exchange for a 1st-round pick and a reported cash amount of approximately $232,000. Malone didn't play long in Buffalo, but once he moved on to the Houston Rockets, he became one of the NBA's biggest superstars. Malone would go on to earn 12 All-Star selections, 3 MVP awards, and an NBA championship with the Philadelphia 76ers in 1983. Now Lucas was an All-Star and helped Portland win a championship in 1977, but the Trailblazers could have won more if they kept Malone as well. As our title says, they simply gave up on him too early. Number 7, Houston Oilers, Steve Largent. The Houston Oilers selected Tulsa wide receiver Steve Largent in the 4th round, 117th overall. That was in the 1976 draft. But he failed to impress Houston during the preseason action, and the team decided to give up on the 5'11" wideout before he even played a single regular season snap. Before the 1976 season, the Oilers traded him to the Seattle Seahawks for nothing more than an 8th round pick in the ensuing draft. It was already a bad trade to begin with. The Oilers had pretty much swapped a 4th rounder for an 8th rounder, without giving that 4th round pick a chance. Doesn't make much sense now, does it? In short, he made the Oilers pay the price. Their loss became Seattle's gain. He turned into one of the NFL's greatest and most dominant wide receivers of all time, receiving 7 Pro Bowl selections while leading leading the league in receiving yards twice. Not only that, but he was a 3-time first-team All-Pro. He finished his career with 819 receptions, 13,089 yards, and 100 touchdowns. Oh, and he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So according to our calculations, that was a highway robbery by the Seahawks. The Oilers learned a valuable lesson. Don't move on from a future Hall of Famer before he even plays a regular season game. Number 6, Calgary Flames, Brett Hull. The great Brett was drafted by the Calgary Flames in the 6th round 1984. He played 5 games for the team during the 86-87 season, but Hull will show signs of superstardom the following year. In 52 games for Calgary, Hull scored 26 goals and 50 points. But during the season, the Flames sent Hull and Steve Bozak to the St. Louis Blues in exchange for Rick Wemsley and Rob Ramage. To be fair, Wemsley looked like a capable starting goalie, while Ramage was a reliable offensive-minded defenseman. But both players struggled in Calgary and didn't last long with the team. As for Hull, he made the Flames pay big time. He spent 11 seasons in St. Louis and scored 527 goals and 936 points in 744 games, turning the Blues into one of the NHL's top teams during the 90s. Hull sits 4th all-time in career goals with 741. Yeah, Calgary gave up on him too early. Sucks for them. Number 5, Montreal Expos, Randy Johnson. The Expos, that's a throwback. The Montreal Expos selected a towering 6'10" flame-throwing left-handed pitcher named Randy Johnson in the 2nd round of the 1985 MLB draft. 3 years later, Johnson made it to the big leagues and debuted for the Expos. However, Johnson struggled in his 2 seasons with Montreal, posting a 3-4 record with a lackluster 4.69 ERA. The Expos decided that he wasn't part of their future plans, which was eventually falling apart and no longer becoming a team. So in 1989, they traded Johnson plus 2 other players to the Seattle Mariners in exchange for Mike Campbell and Mark Langston. The latter was an all-star and gold glove pitcher, so the deal made sense for both sides at the time. Langston performed well for the Expos, but he left for the California Angels after the season. Johnson, meanwhile, turned out to be one of the most consistent and most dominant pitchers ever. He was a 10-time All-Star, 5-time Cy Young Award winner, and led the Arizona Diamondbacks to a World Series in 2001. Johnson, who is now part of the Baseball Hall of Fame, finished with 303 wins, a career ERA of 3.29, and 4,875 strikeouts. Could you imagine if the Expos had him and Pedro Martinez together? That team definitely would have won a World Series. Maybe they wouldn't have relocated to Washington in 2005. Needless to say, the Expos never lived this trade down. Number 4, Chicago Blackhawks, Phil Esposito. This trade just never made sense at the time, and it never will. The Chicago Blackhawks signed a big skilled center in Phil Esposito, and he turned professional during the 1963-64 season. Esposito was a star in the 4 seasons he played with Chicago, scoring 74 goals and 174 points in 235 total games. But in 1967, the Blackhawks traded Esposito, Fred Stanfield, and Ken Hodge Sr. to the Boston Bruins in a blockbuster 6-man trade. Pitt Martin, one of the players that came to Chicago, had some success, but the Bruins wound up being the heavy winners in this trade. Along with Bobby Orr, Esposito turned the Bruins into a powerhouse during the 70s, leading them to Stanley Cup championships in 70 and 72. Esposito also won 2 Hart trophies as league MVP and 5 scoring titles. In 9 seasons with Boston, Esposito tallied 459 goals and 1,012 points in 625 games. As for the Blackhawks, they weren't quite the same after trading the Hall of Fame center. In fact, the franchise only ended a 49-year Stanley Cup drought in 2010. They would have likely ended it sooner if they never traded Esposito just as he was becoming a superstar though. Number 3, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Steve Young. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers selected left-handed quarterback Steve Young with the 1st overall selection in the 1984 NFL Supplemental Draft. But in his 2 seasons with the lowly Bucs team, Young struggled big time. He lost 16 of 19 starts and had 11 touchdowns against a whopping 21 interceptions. The Bucs gave up on Young and took Miami quarterback Vinny Testaverde with the 1st pick in the 1987 draft. They then traded Young to the San Francisco 49ers for 2nd and 4th round selections. An elbow injury forced 4-time Super Bowl champion and franchise star Joe Montana to miss all of 1991, and practically all of 92. Young stepped in to replace Montana as their starter, and he would never relinquish the job. When the time came to decide between the two, the 49ers picked Young over the 4-time Super Bowl winner, trading Montana to the Kansas City Chiefs in 1993. After watching Montana win 2 Super Bowls from the sideline, Young created his own legacy in San Fran by leading the franchise to the Lombardi Trophy in the 1994 season. Young went on to win 2 MVP awards, having kept the 49ers dynasty going in the post-Montana era. He is also enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So wait, oh yeah, the Bucs, right. Why did the Bucs give up on him again? Number 2, Chicago Cubs, Lou Brock. After starring in college, Lou Brock signed with the Chicago Cubs, and he turned heads after an excellent showing for their minor league team, the St. Louis Cloud Rocks. Brock was then recalled and played 4 games for the Cubs in 1961, and would stay on with the organization until '64. Even though Brock dazzled with his lightning-quick speed and base base-stealing skills, he just wasn't able to develop as a hitter. The Cubs gave up on Bourque and traded him to the St. Louis Cardinals in a blockbuster deal that brought stud pitcher Ernie Broglio over to Chicago. Needless to say, it was a deal that the Cubbies would regret for a long time. Bourque became a franchise-changing star for the Cardinals, earning 6 All-Star selections while leading them to World Series championships in 1964 and 67. Bourque also led the National League in stolen bases 8 times. In his 16 seasons with the Cardinals, Bourque batted .297 with 888 stolen bases, 129 home runs, and 814 RBIs. The Cubs, by the way, wouldn't make the playoffs again until 1984, and they didn't win a World Series until 2016. Bourque completely changed the Cardinals franchise and set them on the path to being one of baseball's model organizations. Lesson learned from the Cubs: don't trade a rising superstar to your rival team. Number 1, Atlanta Falcons, Brett Favre. The Atlanta Falcons drafted Brett Favre with the 33rd overall selection in 1991. In his rookie year, Favre only had 4 pass attempts. 2 of them were interceptions. The other 2 were incomplete passes. That didn't mean the Falcons had to give up on him though. But that's exactly what the Falcons did. They traded Favre to the Green Bay Packers in the 1992 offseason for a first-round pick. Atlanta would use the pick on Southern Mississippi running back Tony Smith, but he lasted just 3 years in the franchise and was out of the NFL soon after. As for Favre, he didn't do a whole lot, except for lead the Green Bay Packers to a Super Bowl 31 championship plus another big game appearance the following year. He won 3 MVP awards and was named to 11 Pro Bowls. Favre took the Packers to the postseason 11 times, and he retired as the NFL's all-time passing yards and touchdowns leader. However, those records have since been broken. But still, he made it, so that's good. While Favre revived the Packers team that struggled throughout most of the 70s and 80s, the Falcons didn't experience much success after trading Favre, except for a trip to Super Bowl 33, and that resulted in a blowout loss to the Denver Broncos. While the Falcons decided to give up on a great quarterback prospect after just 4 pass attempts is beyond us. Unfortunately for the franchise, there's no such thing as a real-life DeLorean time machine. Doc Brown isn't about to send them back in time so they can undo the trade. So that sucks. That also sucks for Falcons fans. But it's a huge positive for Packers fans, so go Cheeseheads. Which other teams gave up on their young stars too early? Join me in the comment section below. Make sure to follow myself and TPS on social media. We post great content all the time. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I post videos every single week and they're really entertaining, so if you want more of me, you should go there. Subscribe to TPS because we post videos every single day. Every day's a new video. Subscribe. If you like this video, give it a like. It takes 1 click right down there. Of course, thank you so much for watching. I'm Jason Biondo. I'll see you next time.
My knee.